Well, good morning, everybody. You guys are like really close up here. That's awesome. Wow, you're right there. You guys are all in the spit zone, just so you know, in case you were wondering. Well, welcome all of you that are here this morning. And we have about 200 people who are joining us online today. So would you all wave at everybody who's joining us online right there? We're so glad that they're here. So my question this morning is, how many of you know anything about body language? I love these kinds of answers. That's awesome. How many of you know very much about your mood? Okay, fewer hands on that one. Fascinating. Well, today, this body language show that I do right here in this office, I do it every single month. And every month has a different focus. And if you read the email that came out about this class, you notice that it's talking about stress and your mood. So we're going to look at body language today and how it affects your mood and how it can help you with stress levels. So those are very powerful things when it comes to body language. Because body language, if you look at the front of your handout, do you all have one of these? Show me yours, so I know you've got one. Excellent, excellent. If you look right here in the front, it says the 3 voices of communication. The 3 voices, and they are gestures, tone, and your words. Those are the 3 parts of communication. So if we look at communication that way, then I could actually draw it here as a pie chart. And in this pie chart, those 3 voices are segmented like this. There, in those 3 voices of communication, what we're talking about is if those 3 voices don't match, which one will people pay the most attention to? Which one will get the deciding vote, in other words? Because if the 3 voices don't match, if your words, your voice tone, and your body language don't match, it's actually called miscommunication. Have you ever heard of that? Miscommunication. Well, miscommunication is a very costly thing in our world. Because in our world, communication is how we get everything done. In fact, we want communication so badly that we invest billions of dollars into technology that allows faster communication. I can get up in the morning, look at my cell phone, and see the weather report on the other side of the planet. Because communication of information happens very quickly. Communication of information. So if we look at this, if they don't match, science has done studies and they found that people will use the words to decide the meaning only 7% of the time. Only 7% of the time. But they'll use the tone 38% of the time. We know that because how many times have you been in trouble for your tone of voice? Have you ever had that happen? Yeah, way more than our words. We filter our words, but we what would be the word? We calculate our tone. We filter our words, but we calculate our tone. Women know this. We're really good at saying something and twisting the tone just a little bit so it slides in there and pokes somebody sometimes. We calculate our tone. But this one right here, if you did the math, 55% is our gestures or our body language. But the fascinating thing about body language is most of the time, people have no idea what they're saying with their body language. So we're filtering our words, we're calculating our tone, and we're completely ignoring our body language. We have no idea. In fact, what I do, my job here in the company, is I am a mentor and a trainer, I'm a keynote speaker, and I'm a body language expert. Now, the cool thing about that is I get to work with people and I watch their body language more than I listen to their words. Because the fascinating thing is, as I'm working with people, all the time I'll say, well, this happened in your body language. And they're like, I didn't do that. And I'm like, well, let's just take a video so that you can see what you're doing with your body language. Because we actually don't pay a lot of conscious attention to our body language. We're busy working on the words. We have a lot of classes in words. Did you ever go to this place called junior high? Anybody ever been there? In junior high, we have these classes where we learn how to diagram sentences. Do you remember those classes? Were those your favorite? Where you learned how to take a sentence and you draw the lines, and it's like, okay, where does each word in the sentence go on the lines? Do you remember that? Really useful as an adult, right? Are there any school teachers here? I'm going to get myself in trouble. But the thing is, we learn so much about our words, but we are taught very little about our body language. And look which one has the highest amount of communication in it: the body language. And yet, it's not the one that we pay the most attention to. In fact, most of the time, people aren't paying attention to this at all. Which means this. That might seem like the bad news, but I view it as the good news. Because what that means is we have opportunity to improve our communication by 55%. If we understand what messages we're sending in our body language, and we can upgrade them. So that's what I want to share with you while you're here today. While you guys are joining us online, all of you that have come in person, this is what I want to share with you, is the shortcuts that improve our communication. Because this is powerful. And if miscommunication is costly, then improving it will be a benefit to us. Does that make sense? So you are very wise to be here today. You're very wise to be here at this class to be able to learn about your body language. And while you're here, if you look at this handout, on the inside, mine has a second handout on the inside. Does yours have one of those? So you can pull that one out. This one says the 3 Key Elements Online Academy. This is a list of many of the classes and audio recordings that we have inside of the company. In fact, when I told you about mentoring, if you look on this back page where it says Go Vertical, this is group mentoring. I do a group mentoring right here in this room twice a month. Powerful, powerful class where I teach people how to achieve their goals faster. But this right here, that's for your reference. You can put that down and look at that later. This is the one I want to draw your attention to. In fact, it's really cool because when you open it, it does this. It goes, ooh. Here, try it with me. Ooh. Oh, you guys are good. So you can turn it backwards and actually fold it down the middle if you like this. Because this on the inside, this is powerful information. What kind of information? Powerful. In fact, part 1 here, this is a list of many of the categories of body language. Because your feet don't send the same messages that your shoulders do. Your hands don't send the same messages that your eyes do. There are different messages coming from different parts of the body. So this will be a reference that we will refer to during the class today. Part 2 and part 3, these are fill in the blank. And I'm a really nice teacher. I will give you all the answers, and if you miss one, I will encourage you to cheat off your neighbor. Do you like this class? Isn't that cool? We don't get that offer at school very often. And then right here where this stick figure is, this is a powerful piece as well, because this is where I'm going to show you why your brain would send 2 different messages. Because I don't know about you, but when I first heard about this, I was like, why would my body language send a different message than my words? What's even the point? Well, there's a reason for it, and it's in your subconscious. And I'm going to teach you about what's going on there, because that will empower you to make new choices and to be able to move forward towards your goals faster. So those are the things that I'm going to share with you. And then the bonus pieces is I'm going to share with you specific body language that helps to reduce stress and increase our mood. Because have you ever walked in the house when you were a kid and you knew someone was in a bad mood, even though you hadn't seen them yet? Did that ever happen? Like you walked in the house and you're like, oh, mom's in a bad mood. I don't want to talk to her. We can feel the mood. We are sensitive to vibrations. As humans, we're very sensitive to vibration. In fact, one of the things that sets us apart as humans is our ability to manage vibration in the form of our vocal cords. That's what we're doing when we speak, is we're managing vibration. And that management of vibration sends messages to people around us. And we're very sensitive. We're sensitive to the words, but even the feel of people's emotions, their mood. So today we're gonna cover those things while you're here. Does that sound good? Are you in? Yeah. You picked the right place to be this morning, because it is a powerful thing to understand these. Now, before I share these with you, would it be okay if I told you how I became a body language expert? Anybody curious? Okay, cool. Because I've been working with 3 key elements. This is my 8th year. This year it will be 8 years that I've worked here. I love what I do. I get to travel around and teach people about body language. Tomorrow, Friday, and wait a minute, tomorrow's Friday, right? So tomorrow and Saturday and 3 times next week, I am a keynote speaker and a speaker in different places all over Utah. And so I'll be speaking at Hill Air Force Base. I'm going to be speaking at a professional development seminar. I'm going to be speaking at a high school. I go all over and teach people about body language. And then I told you the other thing I get to do is mentoring, which means I either work one-on-one or with small groups of people where, because of their body language, I can show them what's between them and those goals that they're trying to achieve. Because I'm just curious, do any of you have a goal you're trying to achieve? Oh, awesome. If you didn't raise your hand, borrow one from your neighbor, because I'm sure they would love help getting their goal. But what we don't understand is what stops us from reaching that goal. What stops us? In fact, yesterday I held a personal mentoring appointment, a one-on-one mentoring appointment with a gentleman, and that's exactly what we were looking at, was what is stopping him and why he stops himself from reaching his goals. Because sometimes the fascinating thing is we think we want our goal and our subconscious doesn't want it. And when we can figure out why that is, now we can align the messages, get rid of the miscommunication, and achieve our goals. So I love what I do. It's really powerful and fun. Now, before I had this coolest job on the planet, I used to work in flight simulation. I built multi-million-dollar flight simulators. And my first job out of college, I worked in explosives. So explosives, flight simulation, body language expert. Career path. But it wasn't exactly the career path they gave me out of high school. The reason it happened that way was back in high school. You've been there too, right? High school is a fascinating place. In fact, I have my son will be going into high school next year. And back when I was in high school, I realized I didn't really like the people very much. I didn't get along with the kids, didn't really get along with the teachers. It wasn't my favorite thing. And so I'm like, oh, I had to come up with a solution to this problem. So I had this idea. I was going to leave high school, go to the nearest college, and see if they would take me instead. Turns out they will. And I was like, really? You'll take me at college? And they said, yes, but what are you going to major in? And I said, major in? I didn't know you were going to let me into college, let alone major. Okay, let me think really fast. Why am I coming to college? To date the boys. Isn't that what we go to college for, right? So I'm like, oh, what majors do you have with no girls in them? And he goes, no girls? And I said, yeah, I don't need the competition. So he said, okay then, how about, and he looks through his book of majors, and he says, how about you be an engineer? And I said, no thank you. I have no interest in driving trains. And he goes, trains? And I go, yeah, don't engineers drive trains? And he goes, Anne, in our program, there are no trains, and there are very few girls. And I said, sweet, sign me up. So I went through school in mechanical engineering, and it's true, there weren't very many girls. I know because they called me into the dean's office one year, and they said, Ann, we've elected you Woman of the Year for the department. And I said, was that a hard contest? And they said, let's just say we haven't had one for a while. And I was like, okay, I will be the Woman of the Year for the department. And so I went through school, I graduated in mechanical engineering, and then I married an engineer, because that was kind of who I was hanging out with, was engineers. And now I have these 4 boys and 1 girl. But I still did not communicate well with people. As an engineer, I could hide in my cubicle. I didn't have to talk to anybody. I could get my work done, I could send emails. I didn't have to go out and talk to people. Until my kids got old enough to go to school. Now here was a problem. Because now I had to go to my kids' school. And the same problem was happening. I was getting in fights with other parents. I was getting in arguments with the teachers. And I would come home and I'd ask my husband, how come all these people on this planet are so mean? And he looked at me and he goes, Ann, I don't think you want the answer to that question. And I was like, fine, you're mean too. And this is where I was at. In fact, it got so bad, I would send the kids to school in the morning, and I would hide in the house under a blanket. I wouldn't answer the door, and I would not answer the phone, because communication was required in those situations. And I knew that anytime I had to communicate with somebody, it didn't go well. And so I avoided it at all costs. Because this was a very hard thing for me. I was very frustrated. And my kids felt it. My kids could feel it. That mood was spilling onto my kids. In fact, if you think about it, it's as if everybody walks around the planet in their own cup of energy. It's like this is their cup of energy. And we have a default level of energy. Let's do it this way. We have a default level of energy that we live in. And then throughout the day, what happens is we have experiences. And some of them are good experiences. And some of them are not so good experiences. Now, the thing to know is that because we as humans are sensitive to vibration and sensitive to energy, the energy feels like, well, let me describe it this way. In engineering, when they want you to understand how electricity moves down the wires to turn the lights on or to the outlets. They tell you that to know how the electricity moves, just look at how water would move down a pipe. The energy moves the same way as water. It has very same kinds of properties as water does. So if you think of it that way, that energy moves much like water does, if I am sitting in my cup of energy and I suddenly have a negative experience that happens and that my cup fills up with this energy, how am I going to feel when it gets full? How am I going to feel? What? Overwhelmed. But if this feels like water, what's that going to feel like? Like I'm drowning. So if I feel like I'm drowning, what is the most important thing to me? Air, to be able to breathe. And so if I am feeling like I'm drowning, I want to be able to breathe. So the most important thing to me is to drain off some of this energy so it goes back down to where I feel like I can breathe. Well, unfortunately, the fastest way to drain off this energy is to dump it into somebody else's cup. So if I'm upset, the fastest way to relieve my energy pressure is to pour it onto somebody else. Have you ever had that kind of experience? Not you, but somebody you know, right? They were really upset, and then they just poured it on somebody that was important to them because they were the closest person to let them feel like they could breathe again. So now I've dumped my emotion onto somebody else. So maybe it was my spouse or my neighbor or whoever I encountered. But the problem is now they feel like they're drowning and they want to be able to breathe. So they're going to dump it on the nearest place that they can. Now the problem is little people have little cups. Little people have little cups. And so my kids would very quickly be full of my emotion. They would take it on, they would feel it. And so this was happening in my house. I was feeling picked on by people. I was getting in arguments with people. I was getting frustrated with people. And my emotions were being felt by my kids. And so they got to the point where they would come home from school and they'd say, "Hey, Mom, there's an activity at school. Can Dad come with us?" And I'm like, "Aren't moms invited?" And you could just hear them in their mind going, "Well, not my mom's not invited." And I'm like, "Here, now make this sound for me. Aw. Oh, now I feel better, thanks." That's the point I was at in my life. And I didn't know what to do about it. I didn't know what to do. And so I remember one day, I'd sent the kids to school, and I'm sitting on the couch flipping through the 7 channels we had on our television. And I came across this interview where they were interviewing some celebrities. And I remember looking at these celebrities because they were all standing, and I thought, oh, why do they stand like that so that they look all confident? And I stood up in my living room, and I tried on one of their body language poses. I tried on this confident pose, and I went, oh, I hope nobody sees me like that. That would be awful. Why would people stand like that? And it sparked a question in my mind. And the question was, are they confident because they stand like this? Or do they stand like this because they're confident? Which came first? The confidence or the pose? And so I remember thinking about that. And so I was interested. I didn't know what body language was or anything like that. I hadn't been taught about it in engineering. I hadn't learned about it in getting any of the minors I got in college. I hadn't learned about it, but I was interested in body language. And so one day I heard about a class called the Body Language Show, just like this one. And I quickly signed my husband up for it because I wasn't going to go. There would be people there. But I could send him and have him come back with the information. So I sent my husband to this body language show. And he went to the class. And when he came home, he goes, "Guess what, Ann? I signed you up for a class." And I was like, no, that was not the plan. The plan was you bring me back the information. You don't sign me up for a class. And he goes, "Well, the class is called Master Your Influence." Who's been to that class? Oh, cool, a few of you. And at that class, you're going to learn about communication and body language, which were 2 things I was very interested in. And I was like, fine, I'll go to the class, but I'm going to have body language. And so I said, "Here, watch my body language." As I go to the class, and I sat on the back row, and I was very closed, and I thought, go ahead, try and teach me something. It isn't me that needs to change. It's everybody else on this planet. I am trying very hard to be nice. And my results are very small compared to the effort I'm putting out. So it's not me, it's everyone else. That was what I believed. So as I sat there in that class and got very clear on this concept, that when your words and your body language do not match, people will discount what you say to believe what they see. If the words and the body language don't match, people will discount the words to believe the body language. So then some of you are probably like, well, wait a minute, what if I don't even know what the body language is? Why would I discount their words? The thing is everybody pays attention to body language. We're wired to do it at a subconscious level. At a subconscious level, we're wired to pay attention to body language. The problem is we are not wired to understand the messages we're sending in our body language. We've got to learn them just like a language. So if I want to learn any foreign language, I have to learn the words of it. I have to learn the mechanics of it. Body language is the same way. I've got to learn it. And so I sat there and I listened to that and I'm like, really? If my words and my body language don't match, people will discount my words to believe my body language. And I thought, I need to try this. So when I left the class, I went home and I tried different body language. And I immediately got different results. Immediately. So then I got mad. I got stubborn. I was like, wait a second. Who here's stubborn? Okay, those of you that wouldn't raise your hands, you're the really stubborn people in the room. So here's the thing. My stubborn kicked in. We have stubborn for a reason. I was like, if it matters this much, why was I not taught about body language? If it can have that big of an impact on my results, why didn't anybody ever teach me? And so that is when I said, fine, if that's the way it is, I'm going to change my career. You don't have to change your career to learn body language, but I decided I was going to do that because I wanted to share with people the shortcuts that have improved every relationship of my life. I want to share with people the shortcuts that have improved my relationship with my family. I have 10 sister-in-laws, just so you know. So I have some relationships that I got to work on. My relationships with family, with my spouse, with my kids. We have relationships with our resources, with our house, with our car. Relationships with our workplace. Relationships with money. We have many relationships in our life. And all of them can be improved when communication is improved. Did you hear that, you guys? Every relationship in your life can be improved when communication is improved. That's why this is so powerful. If I can let go of miscommunication and increase my communication, I have now accessed the coolest shortcut on the planet. And yet, we have no idea that we needed it. We knew we needed something, but we didn't know that it was body language and communication. So everything that I've been teaching you so far, and everything I'm teaching you today, will help with your communication. And when you take that and you apply it to any relationship in your life that you're wanting to improve, you now have the shortcut to improve that relationship. Well, guess where one relationship is between you and that goal that you said you have. You have a relationship between you and that goal. And so if you want that goal in your life, you have to improve the relationship with that goal. Does that make sense? Until you've improved that relationship, that goal will not move into your life. And so that's one of the cool things about learning about body language is it helps with the communication of even your communication with that goal so it can move into your life. So we're going to cover those things. We're going to cover more of those because you are a human. Is that true? All non-humans, please raise your hand. I knew it. So we have humans, and humans have body language, and humans communicate. Humans communicate, and they communicate more deliberately than any animal on the planet. So we're going to study this. Now, the thing is, I'm going to ask you to be able to get out of your comfort zone. Because in order to learn body language, in order to do something different, it will feel uncomfortable at first. So I'm going to ask you to get outside your comfort zone. But when I said that, half of you quit breathing. So we just gotta have some rules for the class so it feels safe to get outside of our comfort zone. Is that fair? There'll be just 3 rules, very simple, easy rules. Because at every 3 key elements class, we have the same rules. The first rule is high levels of respect. What's the word? Respect. So please tell the person next to you, I will respect you till lunchtime. And the one on the other side, I'll respect you till lunchtime. Because after that, you're out of my jurisdiction. But until lunchtime, high levels of respect. Rule number 2 is to be present. It means 2 things for this class. One is be willing to participate or play. Because I understand how your brain works, and I also like to play. And I know that if it's a little bit playful, you actually retain more of the information when you leave here. And so if you're willing to participate, the way that looks is if I ask you a question and you don't know the answer, guess out loud. Like guess the answer out loud. Because some of us have been to elementary school and there was that one kid that raised their hand and they got the answer wrong and everybody laughed and we made the decision right then, I am never going to guess an answer again. But the problem is that became part of our comfort zone. So in order to have a new result, you have to get out of what is familiar. If we just keep doing the same thing we've always done, we get the same result we've always gotten. So when you set a goal, if it's different than what you already have in your life, it means you're going to have to do something different to get the new result. So it means you're going to have to do things that are unfamiliar. So play with me for just a second here. Everybody, fold your arms. Fold your arms. Now here's the quiz. Which arm is on top? The correct answer is either the left or the right. Did you get it right? Okay, good job. So now unfold your arms and fold them back with the other arm on top. How does that feel? Some of you are like, how does that work? It doesn't feel right. Ooh, I like how you said that. It doesn't feel right. It's unfamiliar. It's weird. It's different. It's uncomfortable. So I want you to just feel that feeling for just a second. I know that for me, when I first started folding my arm with the other one on top, it felt like it looked like this. I'm like, this is so awkward. I'm sure it didn't quite look that bad, but that's what it felt like. Because the funny thing is, so just feel that feeling for a minute. I'm teaching your brain something. So just feel it. Because here's what happened. I walked into class in 6th grade one day, and the teacher said, everybody sit down and fold your arms. And I'm like, I'm not in kindergarten. I don't want to fold my arms. And she goes, no, I'm going to separate you into 2 teams based on is your left arm on top or your right arm on top. And I was like, I was left over right. And I thought, teams? And she started writing names on the board, which side you were on. And I looked over at the cute boy in the class, and I was like, I want to be on his team. And his arm was the other way than mine. And I was like, shoot, that's all right. I'll just hurry and switch so that I can be on his team. And so when the teacher looked away, I quickly unfolded my arms and folded them the other way. Ah! it's the same way. I for sure thought that I put the other arm on top. And the teacher looked at somebody down the aisle and wrote their name on the board, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this again. So when she looked away, I unfolded my arms, and this time I carefully folded them the other way. But it was the same way. And I was like, wait a second, I want to be on the same team as the cute boy in the class. So I had one more chance. She turned and she looked at the board, and I very slowly and carefully put my right arm on top. Ah! And the teacher looked at me and put my name on the opposite team as the cute boy in the class. Well, I was devastated. I was in 6th grade. That's how girls think, right? Am I the only one that was like that in 6th grade? And so I went home and I was like, this is ridiculous. I should be able to fold my arms with the other one on top. And I set them in my room in the mirror, figuring out how to get my other arm on top. And it felt like this. And I was like, no, I am going to get this. And so from that moment on, I would fold my arms the other way on purpose. Because that uncomfortable feeling that you're feeling, in science, it is called cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance. So you can unfold your arms now. And cognitive dissonance states that your brain cannot hold on to two conflicting ideas at the same time, listen to this, without discomfort. So that feeling you were feeling of the awkwardness, that was actually evidence that your brain was getting two conflicting messages. It was getting a conflicting message. All right, so I'm kind of going deep already. Are you guys, is good? Did you come to have a deep class, or do we want a shallow class? Everybody who votes for deep, raise your hand. Okay, we're in the right place. So I got to finish the rules before I go too much deeper. But let me just tell you this part. Your brain, in order to get out of your comfort zone, you are going to have to actually look for that feeling of uncomfortable. That feeling of uncomfortable is evidence that you have a new choice in front of you. Until you felt what it felt like to fold your arms, what did you call it? It doesn't feel right. That's what you said. So until you felt like what it felt like to fold them the wrong way, you didn't have a choice on which way to fold them. That cognitive dissonance indicates a choice in front of you. So today, for rule number 2, be present. It means be willing to guess. Be willing to be uncomfortable. I promise it will still be legal, moral, and ethical. Okay? We will not step out of that zone. But we're going to step out of comfortable. It means trying something different with your body language. So rule number 2 is to be what? Present. Be present. And then rule number 3 is to manage your communication device. That means make sure your cell phone's on silent. Make sure if you have a question, ask your question when it's time for questions. Now, there's 2 sides to that. Sometimes we won't ask our question because we think we're the only one that has it. Be willing to ask your question. And then the other is also be willing to wait until it's time for questions. Because the things that I'm teaching you are layers of understanding. And so if I can get through the layers, it will make a lot more sense than if we just try to skip over the layers. Does that make sense? So 3 rules. Rule number 1 is high levels of respect. Rule number 2 is to be present. And rule number 3 is so everybody who will abide by these rules, including you guys online, please raise your hand so I can see who my rebels are. Okay, we are good. We have an agreement. And so then, awesome. Did you have a question?
So it was really quick. What does MCD stand for?
Manage communication device. Manage your communication device. Yep, thank you for asking. Yep, so that's what MCD is. I could write out manage your communication device, but then you wouldn't have questions to ask. So that was really good. All right, and then one last thing to know is when I go on a tangent, it's just bonus material. This is what I do all day, every day. In fact, I have given over 4,000 presentations. I have talked a few times about body language. And so along the way, I've learned a thing or two about body language. And I want to share those with you while you're here today. So are we good? All right, so that sounded really wimpy. So let's just check. Are we good?
Yes.
Oh, that was better. Let's just see if we can do it twice as loud. Are we good?
Yes.
Now we're ready because we broke through some of those preconceived notions. We sometimes have this idea that we've got to keep things in a certain box to manage them. But remember, as long as they're in that box, that's the comfort zone, and we are not achieving new results. You can't have a goal and have old behavior and reach the goal. To reach your goal requires new behavior. New results require new behavior. New results require new behavior. So say it with me. New results requires new behavior. New results requires new behavior. So that's what we're going to learn today is what the behavior is. That's what we want. Cool? Awesome. All right, so let's turn to part number 2 in your handout. Does anybody need a writing utensil? Does anybody need one? Are we good? All right. So I am going to read 2 of the blanks for the fill in the blank. And when you've got them written down, say, got it, and I'll know it's time to go on. Got it?
Got it.
Reading body language is a skill to find answers and solutions. To begin reading body language, I must remove judgment and see movements as indicators. When I see movement, the next step is to ask good questions. Ask good questions. So if you see somebody standing like this, what does it mean? They're closed down. Could mean that. What else could it mean? They're cold. What else? Guarded. What else?
They're worried about something.
They're worried about something. Good.
Or their arms are just tired.
Their arms are tired. They have girl pockets, which is no pockets. So how are you going to know which one it is? Ask what kind of questions? Good questions. Is this a good question? Why are you so closed down? That's not a good question. So what's the difference between a good question and an ungood question?
Depends on what kind of response you want.
Okay, so exactly. A good question builds rapport and maintains connection. An ungood question pushes people away and breaks rapport. And so this is why this is one of the first things we have to apply when it comes to body language is that if I immediately step into judgment of a person based on their body language, I will break rapport and tear people down. And that is not the purpose of body language. Let's see, how would I know this? Oh yeah, I had somebody that came to a body language show one time a couple of years ago. And they had been there with another person from their neighborhood. Well, their neighbor, this neighbor that had come to the class, decided to take her new body language skills and she would go to everybody on the block and tell them what they were doing wrong and how they needed to change their lives based on their body language. She was not winning friends, and she was influencing, but she was not influencing in a positive way. So we want to remove that judgment. We want to remove that judgment. You don't have to tell people that you see their body language, but ask questions. So could I ask this question? Is it cold in here? Would that be a good question? Yeah, because if they go, yeah, I'm freezing, then you know what it was, but you didn't break rapport. Does that make sense? Because here's what's going on. So here's the stick figure on that last page. Here, I want to show you what's going on inside of your brain. So inside of your brain, you have a conscious and a subconscious. Trust me, there's many other parts, but we can generalize it to we have a conscious and a subconscious. Did you bring both of yours with you? That was wise. I am glad that you did that. So inside your head, you have this conscious and the subconscious. Which one handles more information, the conscious or the subconscious? Good job. How much more? Hey, you guys are like following the rules. I'm impressed. Way to guess. Well, science has calculated that your conscious mind will actually process between 20 and 40 pieces of information every single second. Your brain works really fast. So 40 pieces of information every single second. So in that same amount of time, how much do you think the subconscious processes? Good guess. Just make a guess. Because here's what happens. When you make a guess, it actually opens the door in your brain to receive the answer. And so it actually is a good thing. Even if you, in this class, I ask you to say it out loud. But even if you don't say it out loud, it actually opens your brain up waiting for the actual answer. So guessing can be a really good thing. So make your guess. Everybody say it at once. What's your guess? Good job. On average, your subconscious will process 40 million pieces of information. Who can count to 40 million by ones? Ugh, that would be awful. I remember in 5th grade when our teacher said, I want you to count to 1,000 by ones in your notebook. We had to write every number down. And I was like, oh, this is stupid and painful. Imagine counting to 40 million. That's a few thoughts. That's a few things that go through your brain every single second. There was 40 million, there was 40 million, there was 40 million. How does your brain process all that information? Well, in order to do that, your brain actually behaves much like a computer. Have any of you watched my TED Talk that I did on body language? Awesome. So if you haven't, I highly recommend you go out to YouTube and just type Ann Washburn. Just for note, this body language class, we usually leave it on YouTube for a week afterwards. So if you type Ann Washburn, you should be able to see this class for a week afterwards. We try to have a body language show out there on YouTube that you can watch, in case you have people that you want to get to see this. So in there, in that TED Talk, one of the very first things I talk about is our computers or our phones. Have you ever, like even this week, because I swear it happens to me weekly, that your computer or your phone has a screen that comes up and it says, there's a software update available. Would you like to install it now? Have you ever seen that? If you're on a PC, it doesn't ask you, it just takes over your computer and updates. On my Mac, it at least asks me, is it a good time? And I can say, no, try again in an hour. But I know my husband, he has a Mac. I have a Mac, he has a Surface. And he's like in the middle of something. He goes, no! And I'm like, what's wrong? He goes, it decided to update the software right now. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry, but I understand why. Software programmers know if you're running faulty programs, you will get faulty results. So did you hear that? If you're running a faulty program, you get a faulty result. In fact, yesterday, I pulled up the App Store on my phone, and I noticed, because I was looking for a specific app, because I'm currently working on getting certified in financial planning, because I want to be able, you have to have licensing to talk about money, financing with people, and so I'm like, I found out it's not that hard to get it, so I'm like, I'm going to work on that. So I was looking for an app to help me with it. And when I pulled that open, I noticed it says, you have 175 app updates available. And I was like, oh shoot, I'm behind. Better start updating these apps. Well, the thing is, if we are running those faulty programs and we're getting faulty results, we may not even know it. So think about this. Your computer has those programs on there because your computer has lots of random data that comes in, and it needs to know what information I want out from that random data. Okay, did you follow that? The programs are there because the computer could have lots of data go in, but unless I have a program that says this is what I want to know, the computer doesn't know what information to give me. Did you follow that? Well, guess what? Your subconscious is doing the same thing. Your subconscious is running through lots of random data every single day. And so it wants to know, what information do I want out? What do I need? So in order to process this vast amount of information, your subconscious behaves the same way as a computer. It has programs. And based on those programs is what information I will get from this random data. Now here's the problem. The problem is, remember, if you're running a faulty program, you get faulty results. And scientists have found the majority of the programs in your subconscious were put there between the ages of 0 and 11 years old. Yay! Isn't that such good news? That one program that you got when you were 6 years old is making decisions in your marriage. Woohoo! Oh, and that one program from when I was 8, it's making decisions in my finances. Oh, that's so good. Oh, anybody wish they could have an upgrade to their programming? Yeah, well, my computer has a screen that comes up and it says, click here to install the upgrade. Where is my upgrade for my subconscious? I need an upgrade because I happen to know that my parents did not have every result in their life that I want to have in mine. And if I got the majority of my programming from growing up with my parents, I might need to get out of that programming in order to have a different result. Now, I am not saying that my parents were bad. My parents were awesome. In fact, my parents are my heroes because my parents grew up in very hard situations. My dad grew up in foster care and aged out of the system. My mom grew up in an abusive environment. They're both youngest children, and they got married. They didn't have an owner's manual, but they decided they didn't want to visit on their kids the same environment that they had grown up in. So I'm the oldest. I'm the guinea pig, okay? I'm the guinea pig of these two youngest children, but yet my parents did better than what they were raised in. Did they do perfect? No. Did I do perfect as a mom? No. No perfect parents on the planet. That's okay. But the cool thing to know is I don't have to keep those programs. I can update them if I know what to look for. And so this is why they had me do the TED Talk on body language, because there's been other TED Talks about body language, but the difference for me that I was talking about was the connection between the subconscious programming and your body language. And that's a powerful connection. Because look, and this will be the answers to part number 3 on your handout. Here's one of the things that your subconscious is doing. So I have to tell you this part. Your subconscious has 2 prime directives. It wants to keep you alive, and it wants to keep you comfortable. In other words, it wants things to be familiar. That's why we have a comfort zone, because your subconscious knows if it can keep you safe and familiar, you stay alive longer. So that's what your subconscious wants. So it does not care if the programs are good for your results or your goals. Your subconscious only cares that the programs won't kill you and they're familiar. If the program won't kill you and it's familiar, your subconscious will defend the program, even if it's not true and even if it's not good for your results. Dang it. So this is cool, this part, you guys. Because here's one of the things that your subconscious does, is it prepares the words you're going to speak before you speak them. And it does it based on the programs, because your subconscious actually wants to send messages to people around you so that they will treat you according to your programs. So let me say that one more time. Your subconscious actually, because it wants to defend the programs, so it wants to send messages to people around you so that they will know how to treat you according to your program. See, this is kind of cool, right? 2 of you. Okay. You agree? Okay. All right. 3 of you. We're good. What was that?
It goes with one of my favorite quotes.
Which is?
It's by Charles Horton Cooley. Says, "I am not what I think I am. I'm not what you think I am what I think you think I am."
All right, I can't repeat all of that. Can you bring a microphone up? Because they can't hear you online unless we use the microphone. Would you repeat that?
Yeah.
And tell us your first name.
Do you want me to stand?
Yes, please.
Okay. My first name is Lee Troy. The quote's by Charles Horton Cooley. It says, "I am not what I think I am. I am not what you think I am. I am what I think you think I am."
I love that. I love that. You should write that down for me.
Okay.
Because I
Okay.
didn't know there was actually a quote from somebody on that. That's awesome. Very cool. Thank you. Round of applause for him. Thank you. So your subconscious is trying to teach everybody around you what your programs are. And if you watched my TED Talk, you notice I talk about in there that I had a belief. I had a program that said people were mean. I had that program. People were mean. And so I would use defensive body language all the time. And because it sent a message, and I didn't even realize the message it was sending to people, and it caused them to treat me in a way that supported that program. Because your subconscious, I'm going a little bit mentory right now. Usually I only explain these things this deep in group mentoring or personal mentoring. Are you guys okay with that? Yes. You're okay? Okay. So if anybody looks like their head's getting really heavy with too much information, help prop it up for them so that we can get through this, right? So here we are, and our subconscious says, you're talking to somebody. Here are 650 words that you could speak in the next minute. Here's some options of 650 words. Well, humans have been studied a couple of times, and we found humans can't speak 650 words in a minute. On average, humans speak 150 words a minute. So those 650 words, remember I told you that we filter our words. We filter our words, and what was the word I used on the tone? Calculate. We calculate our tone. Don't worry, if I spell it wrong, you can so graduate from college and not know how to spell. We need spell checkers for paper. So the words get filtered. And this is how they get filtered. 650 words got prepared to be spoken. But then I can only speak 150 of those a minute. So it gets filtered down to 150 words. How do we filter that? Well, we filter it. Go ahead.
Say by values.
By our values. Very good.
People filter it in different ways. So, for example, if someone swears a lot, their vocabulary is going to be a lot different than someone who's intelligent and doesn't.
Okay, let's see if I can repeat that with the humor he got in there. So he said, our values are one of the ways that we filter it. So he said, for example, if somebody swears a lot, they will have a different vocabulary than someone who's intelligent. His words, not mine. That was good. So we filter it based on our values, based on our environment, based on, wow, that's exciting. Okay, they went on, okay, it sounded like they were in the parking lot. I was like, okay. So sometimes, do you wish some people would filter better? Wouldn't that be nice? That would be nice. But the words get filtered, but how many got held back? It's just a math test, no big deal. 500 words got held back. So those 500 words, where do they go? Why do you say that? Because it has to go somewhere. But see, usually people are like, oh, they just get recycled. They go into this black hole in your brain. But you guys think differently now because we've been together for an hour. And those 500 words, your subconscious still wants the message to go out. Because if the message goes out and you treat me according to my programs, that to my brain is evidence that the program is true, even if it's not. So here was my program, people are mean. So I would send certain body language messages out that caused people to be mean to me. So then I got this program reinforced that said people are mean, and I believed it, and I behaved according to it. And I couldn't get past the results of that belief. Did you hear that? I couldn't get past the results of that belief. Because in order to change my behavior, I would have to shake up that belief. I needed a new belief so I could have new behavior, so I could have a new result. If I want a new result, I gotta have new behavior. You ever felt like you're just hitting your head on the wall over and over again, trying to get a new result? This is why this is so cool. Because you're right. Your subconscious says, yep, I didn't get all the message out in the words, so let's send the rest of the message out in the body language. Woohoo! Yeah, that's not the sound I made when I learned that. The sound I made when I learned that was, no! Wait a second. There was a reason I didn't speak the words I spoke, and you're saying they came out in my body language? Yep, that's what I'm saying. And so then, it's okay, you can leave it there. And so then the thing is I needed an upgrade. I needed an upgrade. So this is the bad news and the good news. Because the cool thing is, if I get a new program, I will get new body language. So does it also mean if I get new body language, I'll get a new program? Yes, it does. And so that's the real cool thing, is if I interrupt my body language, I actually send a new message back to my subconscious, and I begin to upgrade my programming. Okay, who thinks that's the coolest thing you learned all day? Good answer. So here we are, and we have body language. And I notice my body language, and I realize it doesn't match. So here's where it happened for me. My kids would come home from school. I would meet them at the door, and this is what I noticed about myself. They'd come in, and I'd go, oh, kids, tell me about your day. Well, I cooked dinner over here. What did my words say? Come. What did my body language say? Which one do you think they did? They went away. So then, that kind of reinforced my program. I was like, golly, even my kids are mean, grr. And I was like, okay, that doesn't match. Why would I send one message with my body language and a different one with my words? Why would I do it, you guys? Subconscious programming. subconscious programming needed to be interrupted, and I could do it with my body language. So I started thinking about it. So if any of you follow me on Facebook, I do trainings on Facebook every week, and they're pretty powerful. And one of the trainings I did was talking about this thing that I learned when I realized why I was pushing my kids away. So I realized the reason for it, but I didn't know how to upgrade it. But then I learned about body language, and I'm like, oh, hand, let's have a talk. I need you to come this way instead of this way. Look at part 1 of your handout in the lower left-hand corner. Do you see where it says 4 foundational moves? When you've got it, say, got it. Got it. So look at what it says there. What you push, what? Goes away. So here are my kids coming in, and I'm pushing. What should I expect? They should go away. So what does the next one say? What you pull comes towards you. Well, I want them to come towards me, so I should probably not do this. I should probably do this. So I'm like, I had a plan. The kids come in the house. I am going to use this body language. So the next day, met the kids at the door. They come in the house, and I'm like, kids, tell me about... And I'm like, are you kidding me? This is not the way we talked about it, hand. Okay, tell me about your day. And my kids are like, Mom is really weird today. And I'm like, that's okay, come. And they didn't. They still went the other way. But I'm like, no, we got to upgrade the programming. So the next day, okay, remember this way. All right, kids, tell me about your day while I've cooked dinner. Ah! And the kids are like, oh, I gotta go the other way. This is still too weird. And I'm like, no, I'm gonna hold this. I'm gonna upgrade my program. So the next day, kids come home from school. Kids, tell me about your day while I cook dinner over here. And the kids still went the other way. But the interesting thing was, as I'm at the stove starting to cook dinner, 2 of my kids came and got up at the counter and started telling me about their day. And I was like, yes, little happy dance inside of me, because I wanted to send a new message, and now I was getting a new result. When we can change our body language, we can get the results that we're trying to get. Because we too often are sending out the messages that we have no idea that we're sending. We don't realize what we're doing. And so just those 4 foundational moves, those are what people do the most with their hands. They push instead of pull. They hold down instead of lift. And we have several different varieties of reasons that we do it from our subconscious programming. But I see it everywhere. In fact, in the TED Talk, I talk about if you want to see people push things away, just give them a compliment. What do people do when you give them a compliment? They blush. They also go like this. They go, thank you. Did that match? Thank you. And then they push it away. Because, and I'm just going to go here for just really fast. Here's why. Because we either have a program, these are the 2 most common. We either have a program that says, if I receive from somebody else, I am being prideful. And so I'm not going to receive it because I don't want to be prideful. But yet, do you give people compliments hoping that they will push them away so they won't be prideful? Or do you give somebody a compliment hoping that they will receive it? I have never met somebody who said, oh, I give people compliments all the time hoping they will reject them. It's just not the way it works. So we either reject compliments because, and this is because we don't want to be prideful, and this closely linked to that is this belief that we're not worthy of the compliment. But the other reason is we have this belief that if I receive from somebody else, I actually am taking away from them. Here they are offering me the compliment. If I take the compliment, then that person in front of me will be less. We have this weird program inside of us that they will be less, that they will be less than. Does that make sense? And some of you are like, yeah, no, wait, that doesn't make sense. It makes sense that people would do it, but it doesn't make sense as a program. But that's the two most common reasons that people reject compliments. They believe that they are taking from the person, or their belief that they are not worthy or prideful if they receive it. And so this is why I tell people, if you want to practice receiving compliments. Whenever somebody gives you a compliment, instead of rejecting it, and rejecting it is in lots of forms. People will do this, or they'll suddenly need to brush their clothes off. Have you ever given somebody a compliment and suddenly they're like, oh, thank you? It's like, okay, get that compliment off. Okay, got to make sure it's not on there. And people will say, oh, no, you just brought attention. And I was like, I got to get the dust off. Yeah. I know your subconscious. It will tell you whatever it needs to get you to behave in a way that will support your programming. So it'll happen like this. It'll be brushing, it'll be flicking. That's my favorite, is when I see people, they'll suddenly flick their fingers. I gave, just for fun, one week, I went around and I just gave all the compliments I could give to see how people would respond. And I remember this one lady, I gave her a compliment and she goes, oh, thank you. I was like, wow. That was blatant. But flicking, that's one of my favorites, because they'll just flick down, or like her, very, very blatant. But watch for the rejection patterns. Watch for the rejection patterns. You guys, it's rampant on our planet. People are, okay, here's a soapbox for just a minute. People actually are so ingrained in this belief that if they receive something somebody else has less, that it breeds a scarcity mentality on the planet. Do you think people are actually less if they give you a compliment? Have they given something away? Or are they actually also built up? When I was down in California with my kids, we went down to Universal Studios, and I had this hat with all these sparklies on it, because it's fun to get to wear something like that once a year. And I couldn't believe all these people that needed to give me a compliment about it. I'm walking out of this into this one parking lot, and this lady, I saw her, she changed her trajectory to come over and give me a compliment about my hat. And she comes over across the parking lot and she goes, oh, I just had to tell you how much I like your hat. And I turned to her and I said, thank you. And this was her response. She went, you're welcome. She was like expecting me to reject it. And when I received the compliment, she was like, wow. She actually, her shoulders went up, her chin went up, and she was like, her smile went up. She's like, you're welcome. She felt better, not less. But you could just tell that she was one of these people who likes to give compliments, but is used to them being brushed away. And it was such a refreshing change to her that she walked away happier, not less than. That is an abundance cycle. That is an abundance cycle, but yet we keep ourselves trapped in a scarcity cycle. So that's all the soapbox I'm going to go to there. But go ahead.
I have a strange question, but if you're
Wait, will you grab the microphone? Raise your hand. She doesn't know who to give it to. There you go.
So my question is, if your body language is a certain way while you're expressing that compliment, is that taken differently depending on that person's programming?
So yes and no. Because here's the thing, we're all interacting with each other. Now, I'm going to answer you this way. The power is in looking at my body language. The world wants to say, you need to know what everybody else is saying in their body language. Almost nobody focuses on what do you say with your body language. They're starting to get more of it because I get messages from all over the planet every week now because of that TED Talk I did. And so like last week I had somebody from Russia and somebody from India and somebody from Canada who all contacted me to tell me the difference in their results because they started to pay attention to their message. And so, yes, it's true that it'll be different based on theirs, but your power is in yours. You don't have to worry about theirs as long as you are paying attention to yours. Does that make sense? Does that help? And what was your name?
Rachel.
Rachel. Big round of applause for Rachel. Thank you. And so this is this cool cycle that's going on the planet all the time, and yet nobody told us until now. Nobody told you. And so now, because you've come to this body language class, you will not walk out of here and see things the same. You can't. Because I changed your awareness of what's going on in your subconscious. I changed your awareness. And so the interrupt that happens in our body language actually is that cognitive dissonance that we felt at the beginning of class. If I change my body language, it feels awkward at first. Just like my kids at the door. Kids! It felt very awkward. So here's something I need you to know. Your body language, when you are upgrading it, will feel more awkward than it looks. It will feel more awkward than it looks. So when I'm displaying this for you, I'm showing you what it felt like. I don't think it looked quite that awkward to my kids. It did trigger cognitive dissonance in them because they were used to me behaving a certain way. And so when I changed my behavior, now they were like, wait a second, this isn't the mom I'm used to. And so they need a little bit of time to get used to the new version. Get used to the new version that they're seeing. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes. So let's make sure you got the answers to part number 3. I'm going to read it, and this time you give me the answers for the fill in the blanks. The ability to understand and use nonverbal communication is a powerful tool that will help you to connect with others, express what you really mean, navigate challenging situations, and build better relationships. While you are speaking, the brain prepares and organizes 650 words per minute to say. At the last moment, our consciousness filters this down to 150 words. As a person speaks, there are an average of 500 words that are held back. And these hidden words show up in body language. Excellent. Okay, so now I need some volunteers that will help me demonstrate some body language. Anybody want to be my volunteers that will demonstrate my body language? Awesome. All right, so let's have you right here. What's your name? Adam. So Adam, you come right here, and then I need a girl. Let's go you. We'll have a color theme here. Would you stand right up here, Adam? And what's your name?
Becky Jo.
And Becky Jo. So Adam's on this side, Becky Jo's on this side. These are our example of the human race right here. Aren't we glad? So you guys can stand right here in the middle. I'll move off right here. And you guys, what I'm going to see is what you know about body language. And it's more than you think you know, too. So first of all, round of applause for Adam and Becky Jo. So here's my question for you. When somebody feels weak, what will you see in their body language? When they feel weak.
Slump shoulders.
Slump shoulders. I can't say that one apparently. Slumped. Now my brain wouldn't do it. Slumped shoulders. So you guys slump your shoulders for us. Okay, good. Do they look weaker? Yeah, already. Okay, what else?
Down immediately with the shoulders.
Yep. So looking down, no eye contact, and no smiling at them. Okay, good. Good job. Weight on one foot. So if you look at your part 1, it says legs have to do with strength, balance, support. Next to that, you can write foundation. Your legs have to do with your foundation. Okay, so weight on one leg. So the parts I like to look at are feet. Notice their feet are pointed 2 different directions. Legs, their weight is on one leg. Hands, what do people do with hands when they feel weak? No smiling at them. Good. Okay, they'll fidget or they'll close them. Any way that you close your hands in front of you, we call that a gate. And so they'll shove their hands in their pockets, or they'll fold their arms, or they'll close them in some way in front of them when they feel weak. So feet, legs, hands, shoulders, slumped, chin is down. Notice their chin is down. They don't look at eye contact, and they don't smile. Those are the things that you see most often when somebody feels weak. Now, you can feel weak for a variety of reasons. It can be weak because they've not health-wise, they are weak. It can be weak because mental-wise, they are weak. Our brain has a lot of power over our physical body. A lot. You got to hold your, thank you. Yes, good job. And then hands. There you go. All right. So our brain, in fact, to the point that when somebody doesn't want to have to do something mentally, your physical body will respond. Like people would get super tired because they don't want to do something. Or your immune system will go down and allow you to catch something. Our brain actually has a lot of power. In this class, that's not my purpose here, but just so you know, your brain has a lot of power that way. And so when somebody feels weak for whatever reason, it will come out in their body language. So then here's the question. When somebody appears weak, did the body language start the feeling of weak, or did the body language come because of the feeling of weak? Or does it matter which one started it? What matters, it's kind of like Dad says in the car, I don't care who started it, I'm going to finish it. You ever heard that from Dad, right? Or a dad on TV. So that's the same thing that's going on here. It doesn't matter if the brain started it or the body started it. It matters that you choose to interrupt it. It matters that you choose to interrupt it. Because what science has found, in fact, this was a study that was done at Harvard Business School. Harvard Business School, you guys get to just hold that for a minute while I describe this, okay? At Harvard Business School, they like to do studies. You ever heard of studies being done at Harvard Business School? You know why? Because they have lots of guinea pigs. They're called freshmen. And so they bring the freshmen in and they say, here's what we're going to do. We're going to give you a job interview. And what they were studying was body language, but they told them they were going to have a job interview. So before their job interview, half of the participants were asked to hold a weak body language pose. The other half were asked to hold a strong body language pose. At the end of 2 minutes, 2 minutes is how long they held the pose, they were actually given a spit test to measure their hormone levels, and then they were sent in to have the interview. The interviewers were not told who held which body language pose, and yet the interviewers chose the people for the positions who had held the strong body language. Those are the ones that were chosen. And they had no idea who had held which pose. They also found that in that 2 minutes, your hormone chemicals in your brain adjusted. And those who held a weak pose for 2 minutes, their anxiety hormones went up and their confidence hormones went down. In 2 minutes. Those who held the strong pose for 2 minutes, their confidence hormones went up and their anxiety hormones went down. This is proof of the connection between your body language and your programming. You can change your programming by interrupting the body language. So if you catch yourself, so this is what we wanted to talk about today. If you catch yourself in any kind of these weak poses, you don't have to have all 6.5 of them, but if you have any of them and you feel yourself lowering in confidence, it's time to adjust the body language. So let's change this one piece at a time. So don't change everything at once, Adam and Vicky Joe, okay? But what I want you to do is just put your shoulders back up. Just your shoulders. Notice Adam couldn't do it without his chin. They're kind of connected. Okay, so do chin too. Keep your weight on one leg though. Thanks. Now, does that look more confident than it did? Okay, go back to all week. Okay, now change just those 2 parts. Does that look more confident? It doesn't look all the way confident, but does it look more confident than the other one that they were just doing? Yeah. Okay, now weight on both legs. Weight on both legs. And Adam, we can now smile. Okay, how does that look? Is that more confident? Absolutely. Now for hands, neutral position for hands is actually open to your sides. Open to your sides is neutral position. But the funny thing about open hands, hands are one of the ones that actually, they send a lot of messages. At Master Your Influence, we talk about each of the fingers send a different message, okay? We talk about the fingers, the outsides and the insides of the hands, but the hands are also at the bottom of your arms. And arms send a message of freedom and capacity. And so when our hands are down to our sides in neutral position, it actually sends the message that there is a level of freedom in their mind. Because our brain is actually where the most bondage comes from. We have a lot of bondage that happens inside our brain that comes out in our body language. And so if I ask somebody, what's your goal? Well, I want to start a big company. And they use this kind of body language. That sends the message that they're trapped in their mind about how big it can go. But if they say, oh, I want to start a big company, they've showed a level of freedom in their thinking. Okay, is that too deep? Is it okay to know that? So the hands down to the side, this actually sends the message that if she wants to, she can use this capacity. She can use it. When we fold our arms or put our hands in our pockets or close our hands, or sometimes people will do it this way. They'll have a pen and they'll hold it with both sides. This is another gate. It's one of these kinds of gate, a toll gate. And so those kinds of things send the message, my capacity is being held back. My capacity is being held back. So neutral hands down to the side, it doesn't mean you walk around everywhere like this. That would be creepy. How would I know this? Because I tried it and people were like, is that good body language? Yes, because I don't know how to do my body language yet. Back at the beginning when I was giving my very first body language class, I didn't dare use my body language, so I stood up there like this the whole time teaching. Can you imagine, you guys, if I just stood up here like this the whole time? You guys need to have good body language. Good, good, good. And so some girl raised her hand in the class. Do you have good body language? Yes. And they were like, this is really weird. Luckily, they called me back, and I got to come teach the same group of people 2 years later because it was at a school. There were different students, but a very different result. It was cool. So this down to our sides, most of the time people will say, I don't want to put my hands there. It feels weird. It feels awkward. Trust me, I know. Because my habit was to always cross my arms. Because when we feel weak, we want to protect our vital organs. That's just our default wiring. So I would always fold my arms. The second I got out of the car, I would fold my arms before I even walked into the building. I was always very defensive. So when I learned this, and I was like, oh, shoot, I want to put my hands down to my sides. Okay, we're going to try this. So I'd put my hands down to the side, and all of a sudden, they'd be folded again. And I'm like, no, unfold the arms. And so I was like walking around like this. And people are like, are you okay? Yeah, I'm just upgrading. And it was seriously so bad, you guys, that my fingers swole up double their size because I didn't have the necessary blood vessels to pull the blood back out of my fingers because they had never been held down to my side. True story. Because I never had open body language. It was always closed. And so I actually had to go through a period of time where my fingers got used to it and could go back. I couldn't wear rings because my fingers were so swollen. And so I know what it's like to feel awkward with open body language. But what it is you use your body language and then you have a place to put your hands away. Instead of trying to put them in a pocket, which don't exist on girl clothes anyway, and folding them in front of you, you just put them away down to your sides. Now, like Adam had a minute ago, he put his hand in his pocket with his thumb out. Do that again. So he put it this is kind of a resting pose for hands. And I don't have time to go here all the way today, but this right here is kind of a resting one. But now put your hand with your thumb also into your pocket. Do you see how that sends a different message? That one's different. This one is less confident. The thumb on the outside is more of a resting pose. And often what people will do, so take one hand out. Confident people will put one hand here, but they might rest one here. It's kind of like when your feet get tired, you'll go to one side or the other. But when you first meet somebody, to have your body language be the open, confident body language, and then after, let me explain it this way. Your brain does what's called norming people. It norms them. And so in other words, in the first, have you ever heard this? It takes 10 good impressions to make up for a bad first impression. You ever heard that? Well, it's also the opposite. It actually takes almost 10 bad impressions to ruin a first good impression. So when you can send a first good impression, then after the first couple of minutes, you go to wait on one leg, their brain will forgive that body language. They'll forgive it because you gave the first positive, strong impression at first. I used that first twice in that sentence. That makes sense? Yes?
Yes.
You two and Adam. Okay, we're good. So this is what we're learning here. So will you help me with just a little piece here? So if his weight is on both legs, and I'm sorry, I have this hair that keeps, okay, I think I got it off. So if yours weight is on one leg, so put your weight on that leg, this sends a message that he's easily knocked off balance. Do you see that? And that's the message people get from it. But if your weight is on both legs, now it sends the message that he's strong in his foundation. He's strong. So having your weight on both legs is a good thing. Now, here's another part about that mood and the stress level that I was going to talk about. This is neutral position with his feet shoulder width apart. Have you ever seen somebody who puts their weight wider than shoulder width apart? what does that send? What message does that send? Okay, go back to shoulder width apart. Now further. Why would somebody do that? Intimidation. I'm not willing to move. So intimidation, stubborn, defensiveness, defiance. They've got,
I was just thinking like a soccer goalie, like he's in like a
yeah,
defensive
he is not going to budge. He's not going to be moved. Now, notice that most of those words that we just used have negative connotations to them. So here's where we're going to talk about how to reduce your stress level by watching your body language. So okay, go back to shoulder width apart. So if somebody keeps pushing on you and they're getting stronger and stronger, what are you going to do? Notice what he did? He immediately widened his stance. Okay, now they keep pushing on you. What are you going to do? Okay, so if you go too wide, now it's Chinese splits. So once you get to a wide enough stance and they keep pushing, what happens next?
Start to turn into it.
Start to turn in, and then what else happens?
You're pushing back.
Okay, I'm pushing on you, but what is going to happen in your body language? What are you going to want to do?
Probably lean into it.
Lean. Okay, what are your hands going to do?
They're probably going to get more in a fighting position. I think.
Okay, so show. See, that matches what's going on here. So feet will, so let's go back to just a little wide. A little wide. There you go. So defiance, yeah, a little wide. Now hands. Okay, what will your shoulders do?
Probably get stronger, won't they?
They actually go up.
Intimidate them.
They go up towards our ears because we're getting into blocking stance. So this is what I want you to pay attention to. Next time you feel stressed, notice if any of these things are happening and you're not realizing it. Notice if your feet have gone wider apart, if your hands have gone any kind of fist. Because sometimes what we'll do is we'll hold on to something and you get the white knuckle. Our hands go into a fighting mode. Our shoulders raise up towards our ears. Here, try it. Everybody do it. Our shoulders raise up towards our ears. Our chin will come down a little bit. Now, we're over-exaggerating it so that we can explain it. But these things can happen even in little ways. Our kids can irritate us. And we can actually notice that our hand goes into a fist. Now, remember, I told you at the beginning that oftentimes I'm mentoring somebody and I say, you did this in your body language. Now, I already have permission that I've asked them to critique their body language. Don't just do this for everybody on the street. But I'll tell them, you did this in your body language. And so often they're like, no, I didn't. And it's like, then I ask the audience, did they? And they're like, yep. And they're like, how is that possible? I didn't know I did it. That's why I'm bringing this to your awareness. Because when you're stressed, you'll do this to some degree and not realize it. So you'll widen your stance. Your shoulders will go up. Have you ever felt really tight right here at the end of the day? That's because your shoulders were pulled up a little bit towards your ears because you go into this defense mode in your body language. Or your hands will fist in some way. Or the other thing you'll do is you'll put your thumb in. Not everybody will do that. But thumbs have to do with willpower. And so sometimes we're comforting our willpower to hold our temper or to hold our stance. Either one. Okay, I've gone into deeper body language. Are we getting this? Yes? Adam, you getting this?
Yes,
Okay,
I'm getting this.
good job. So here he is. He's standing with this tensed hands, tensed feet, tensed shoulders. How long can you stay in this pressure cooker mode before you need a relief valve?
Pretty soon, pretty quick.
Pretty quick, you'll
Yeah.
need a relief valve.
Yep.
Because are you a pressure cooker most of the time?
No.
No. What's your general way of behaving?
Most of the time I'm in neutral.
Most of the time you're in neutral. And based on his body language, I would say most of the time he is a diffuser. That if he sees somebody who's a pressure cooker, he tries to lighten the situation to let them diffuse. Is that true?
It's true.
Yeah.
It's accurate.
And so this is something that now body language, we will have different levels of subconscious control over it. In other words, what I'm trying to help you know here is you'll have some default coping mechanisms in your body language that you didn't realize were there. And so that's what I was seeing in him, is that he has some default coping mechanisms when it comes to other pressure cookers on the planet. Does that make sense? How many kids in your family? Growing up.
Siblings, I have 6 brothers.
6
and one
brothers,
sister.
and you're in the middle.
I'm in the middle.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you learned this because there was a lot. Where's your sister?
She's right under me.
Really?
The one right next
Awesome.
to me.
Yeah, I have 4 boys and 1 girl, so
Nice.
I get that part. She actually is the she kind of runs the roost. She she has no idea how good she has it because she always got her own bathroom, even with all these brothers, because I wasn't going to make the boys share with her, and so she didn't know how good she had it. All she ever wanted was a sister. But man, she could wrestle any of those brothers until they got taller than her. She could pin them. She had it down. She's second in our family.
My sister does the same.
Yeah, see? They learn things. And so you also learn to diffuse situations because there's a little contention amongst that many boys.
That's right.
There's going to be that kind of thing.
Yes.
So how do you diffuse it, Adam?
A smile is the first thing.
A smile is the first thing.
They're knowing you're comfortable when you're smiling. So
Yeah. And can you tell that about Adam? Because when he came up, what was the hardest thing for him to do? Was frown. That was the hardest thing. Okay, what else? What else diffuses a situation?
no, it's usually you change your arm position a little bit and say, okay, let's calm it down a little bit.
Okay, so notice what he did there. Open hands and calm down. Does that match? Yeah, if he did this, calm down, would that match? No. So if people are riled up, you're not going to say, okay, let's calm down. So it's matching. That's what you're looking for, is when body language doesn't match. And so if he was standing here and going, okay, let's calm it down, that wouldn't match. So he's learned, this is kind of why I picked him, he's learned to diffuse situations. He's learned it through lots of trial and error. He was brought up in a place where he got lots of chances for this. Well, in our world, we don't always have that. We don't always have all those chances, so we need to learn it. And so if you catch yourself and your fists are balled, you can actually lower your stress level by telling your hands to relax. Just having your hands relax can actually bring the stress level down. Now, it doesn't mean you want to go tell your kids, okay, you have fists, you should unfist them right now. That's probably not going to diffuse the situation. But if you do it for you, so if you catch your hands balled and you let them go, you soften your fingers, that helps to diffuse the situation. If you catch your feet wider than shoulder width, and it's usually not tons wider, it's just a little wider. We usually just go a little bit wider. It isn't until somebody's actually physically pushing on us that we go really wide, but we'll go a little bit wider, and so just pull them into shoulder width helps to lower the stress. But the biggest one is the shoulders and pulling them away from the ears. So put your shoulders back up again like you did a minute ago. Have you ever, I'm not even going to say have you ever, because I know you have and you didn't know it. What happens is our shoulders come up and we don't even know that we've locked that muscle. Have you ever seen somebody walking down the hall or somewhere and they just look like their shoulders have gotten up to their ears or they've hunched a little bit? And we just pass it off as their posture. But what's really going on is their stress level has increased. So pull your shoulders away. Sometimes it helps to roll them back and down. Pull them away from your ears and actually pull your ears up. Pull them up so that you can, not like this, but just push your neck up so that your ears go away from your shoulders. Try it. It feels stretchy for a minute. And now just let it go back to neutral. Okay, notice a lot of you took a deep breath when you did that. It actually lowered the stress level when you did that. So your feet, shoulder width apart. Your hands, let go of the tension that's in them. Your shoulders and your ears, pull them farther apart. Your chin, put it back just above level, because we actually pull our chin down when we go into defense mode, because it's kind of like we have horns and we want to poke our horns into somebody. If you want to think of it that way, that's why we pull our chin down. So pull your chin just above level. And then remember what Adam told us? How else do you diffuse the situation? Smile. There's lots of studies that have been done on smiling and how it changes the things going on in our brain. So smiling also will help to diffuse your stress level. In fact, there was one study that was done, and what they did is they took a group of people and divided them into thirds. And all three of the groups had to perform, what they did was they had a keypad and they had to key in a pattern on the keypad. And it was complicated on purpose so that it would be stressful. And they had to learn it and memorize it. Well, they had the three groups perform it in three different ways. Same pattern, but the first group had to smile while they were doing it. The second group had to frown while they were doing it. And the third group had to do it while holding a chopstick between their teeth, which caused an artificial smile. And what they found was the group who had smiled during the activity had a lower stress response than the group who had frowned. The group who had held the chopstick between their teeth had a similar lowered stress response to the group who had smiled. And so what they found was, even if you don't feel like smiling, it can actually lower the stress of the situation if you allow yourself to smile. Isn't that cool? So those are the things I would suggest that you pay attention to when you need to lower your stress level, or if you catch yourself starting to be a pressure cooker. Do you know what I mean by that? We tend to stuff the emotions in until it finally blows somewhere, until we feel like we're drowning and we have to dump it off quickly somewhere. So your feet, your hands, your shoulders and your ears, your chin level, and then smile. Do all of those, pay attention to those, and it can help lower your stress and improve your mood. Improve your mood. Cool? Yes, right here.
So I've noticed, especially if you're going to school, there's some people who are extremely angry 98% of the time. And if they're mad at you for some reason, it could just be a stupid thing like you left a wrench on the ground, you forgot to pick it up, and they don't like you, like the wrench there. They could like blow up at you. If you sit there and smile and act confident, they're going to think that you're mocking them in your head. So how do you defuse a fight and not...
Okay, you reached my capacity to repeat it, so you need to grab the microphone so that everybody can hear you online.
Okay. Do I say my name too?
Yes, please.
Okay, so my name's Jacob Gaunt, and my question is, a lot of the time, especially in the auto shop, there's people who are angry 98% of the time. So if you do something small that isn't really big, but could really tick them off, and you sit, and then they come and they're angrily addressing you, and you're sitting there smiling, acting confident, it could make the situation worse. So how do you effectively stay confident, stay de-stressed and defused while trying to handle that so you don't make a worse situation?
Okay, so Adam, you might have had that kind of situation before. What do you do?
sometimes they'll call it out. Why are you smiling? You just tell them why you're smiling, because I like to smile.
There you go. So he's been called on it before. Now, also, this part that I just taught you, you're absolutely right. If everybody around you is riled, don't sit there and smile. Use the other pieces. That's why I taught you more than one. So use the other pieces. Use the shoulders. Don't go to defiance, or that also ticks them off. Don't ball your hands. So your shoulder width apart, open hands, shoulders up. But you don't have to smile when they are addressing you that way. But here's what I do. So can you help me with this, Adam?
Yeah, is there a different smile too? Because sometimes you've got your regular smile.
I'm hoping they
back down.
online can hear you through my microphone. I think they can.
There's a different smile too. You have your smile when you're walking around,
Mm-hmm.
you're talking to people. It goes up and down, but when there's a situation that's stressful, it comes down a little bit.
Yeah.
It's still turned up a little
I
bit.
think
but
they
it's
can
not-
hear him through my microphone, so we're good.
It's turned up a little bit, but it's not as big. It seems
Yes.
like
So you can have, well, especially you, your neutral position is smile, and that makes sense because you had 6 brothers, so you needed to be a diffuser more of the time. Most people, their neutral position for their mouth is not in a smile. And so I have to teach them to smile and even say, okay, use a chopstick or put a pen between your teeth. But in that kind of a situation, most of the time people won't go to a smile unless they're consciously thinking about it. But here's what I need your help with. So turn towards me for a second. If somebody's angry at you, the way we like to look at it is it's like their belly button is a vortex cannon pointing energy at you. And that can feel pretty intense when somebody's angry. So you pretend, so you'll have to not smile for a minute. You pretend you're angry at me for a minute. So he is pointing that energy at me. What I do is I just take a quarter turn to the side. I will not be looked at as disrespectful because I'm still looking at them, but I have actually given a space for that energy to go past me instead of absorb the energy. And so I just a quarter turn. So I don't go to wider stance, I don't ball my hands, but it will actually help diffuse it because I am not absorbing this energy and feeling like I'm getting underwater and needing to pour back. Because that's what happens in a fight is it's whoosh, 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 until it becomes so mixed up and so angry and nobody can get their head out from underwater. And so then it becomes a full escalation fight. And so this is one of the things I like to do is if there is a confrontational situation, you consciously just turn slightly to the side so that cannon is firing next to you, not at you. Does that make sense?
yes.
Okay. I just have to have some feedback here because if not, then I take it full on, then I'm going to pour it right back out. And then shh. But here, do you feel the difference in that energy?
Just standing here, I do.
Just a quarter turn
Yep.
makes a big difference.
So is that like if you're at work and you get yelled at and you go home and you can't?
Yeah, so he said, is that like if you're at work and you get yelled at, so you go home and kick the cat? Yeah, that proverbial story where the boss yells at this guy and this guy yells at the janitor go home and yells at his wife. Wife yells at the kid kicks the dog. And then the kid gets in trouble for kicking the dog. Because the kids they don't learn where to pour their energy off at. So this is why if I know I'm like this, I actually will go sit in my car and yell at my steering wheel. Because I don't want to yell at somebody else, but I do want to lessen this. Or I'll go for a walk. Or for me, I do CrossFit. Strenuous exercise helps to lower this as well. So you find whatever it is in your life that helps to lower this stress level.
What's an effective stance for a high school student who's in a bullying situation?
Okay, I can repeat that one. So she said, what's an effective stance for a high school student that's in a bullying situation? So which part of the bullying situation? How to be a better bully?
No. How to diffuse a bully.
To diffuse a bully, this helps a lot, this quarter turn, because you'd still need to stand your ground, especially in junior high school. You need to stand your ground. But there's things to do before you ever get to the bully situation, which is what I had to help my kids with. Because before you ever get to that bully situation, it happens not 100% of the time, but most of the time because the bully knows you'll react. They know that you'll react to what they have to say. So like my kids, they would come home all upset, and this started in elementary school, because somebody had said something to them. And they're like, well, what did they say to you? Well, they said that my hair was ugly. Well, is your hair ugly? No. Well, then why does it matter to you? And so I taught them, is this okay if I go clear back to that? Before high school. So I taught them what we called so or whatever. I said, if it's not true, then just say so. It's the other way. Just say whatever, because it's not true. Your hair is ugly, whatever. Because then you aren't showing that you will react to the bully. And so then the next day he came home from school. Well, this time they said that my shirt was blue. I'm like, God, what do they do in first grade? And I said, your shirt is blue. Oh, I know. And he was making fun of me because my shirt's blue. So I can't say whatever because it's true. And I said, all right, so now you say so, because you like your blue shirt, right? He's like, yeah, I love my blue shirt. Then say so. So he would practice so and whatever at school so that he didn't become somebody that everybody knew would respond to the bullying. So now not everybody's gotten to learn that before they get to high school, but that's where I started with my kids. Now at high school now you might have a situation where they just want to bully. They don't care who it is. Like my son had this situation where there was this one bully who would just go down and slam everybody's locker as he's going down the aisle. He didn't care who it was. He would just slam everybody's locker. And he didn't care if there were fingers in there or heads in there. He just slammed everybody's locker. And so those kinds of situations, we still have to be able to stand our ground, but not contribute to the back and forth. So that's why it's important to, all the things I've been showing you, not go into a defensive stance, not stay facing straight on, but to go slightly to the side. Those kinds of things help, and don't do a stupid grin on your face, because that'll infuriate them. Don't do that part. But don't go into any of the defensive pieces like you want to fight back, but you can be confident and hold your ground. Does that make sense? Because, yeah, it's a hard thing. But that bully situation, we have it in the workplace. In the workplace, it doesn't end there. I wish people quit being high schoolers when they grew up, but they haven't grown up yet. And so we need to know this. We need to know this. And the thing that I added, that my husband added to it for me, was he says he's a corporate business consultant. And what he always teaches people is this, I have to explain it. He says it this way. He says, is the fan blowing or is the fan blowing at you? And so what that means is sometimes somebody's fan is just blowing and you happen to step in front of it. And so we have to disengage and say, are they angry at me or are they just angry? And when I can separate that, it can help me respond differently. Does that make sense? Does that help? You're welcome. And you wanted to add?
Yeah, I'll just comment to that. I don't know if I have the right answer, but I do volunteer at my kids' school to reduce bullying after.
Okay, wait. Microphone, please.
Yeah.
After the first sentence, I can.
It's a comment more than a thought. So Drew Kimball, just a thought, and this goes to bullying in the workplace, but you brought up a good point. We live in this 10,000-year-old brain, and we have these limited beliefs that a bully needs to be bullied back, and that's scarcity. You talked about abundance. You just need to show an increase of abundance. And I mean, you could do that with a body language stance, but you could also do that with a kind gesture, an invitation, a kind thought. And that's when a child comes to me and says, I can't. That's the most negative thing you can tell yourself is you can't do what? I can't be in school because there's this person who won't share this piece of recreational equipment with me. And it's like, well, you can if you found a win-win
What age
solution.
school?
He's second grade.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just learning how to share and learning that they're not taking it from you permanently, but there's an invitation for an opportunity to channel that negative energy into something positive.
So I'm not going to completely go over onto these soapboxes,
Yeah.
but what we're pointing out here is in our world, these digital natives are not getting the social skills that we had when we were growing up. They aren't getting the same opportunity. So when it starts in elementary school like that, it's very helpful. But that doesn't mean that they're a lost cause if they got to high school without this. So that's why I'm teaching these pieces, is because when that person's in your face, you got to have something to do before you can start to go choose something different. Does that make sense? So thanks, you guys. Big round of applause for all those comments. All right, so Adam, you keep backing up. Can you go to the front of the stage, and Becky Jo can go to the front of the stage for me? You guys were amazing volunteers, so I'm going to give you presents. Would that be okay? Oh, you like presents? All right, so these presents, have you guys been to classes before? You have? Have you been to classes before? Okay, then I'm going to give you these ones right here. Because these are audio recordings that I did a couple years ago that are mentoring principles. This one right here, Don't Dump Your Cup, this is about how to receive better the things that are coming to us, how to understand how to balance work life and play life. This is also about procrastination and why we procrastinate things in our lives. So I'm going to give that to you, but I'm going to ask that you listen to it. Would you do that?
I have listened to this one and I haven't.
You have?
Yes.
So you can pay it forward if you'd like.
Can I gift it to
You can.
Okay.
Would you like to do that? Okay.
Because I'm energetic.
Oh, awesome. All right, big round of applause for that one. And then Adam, I'm going to give you this one. This is the bucket list. This is how I learned to get out of my comfort zone, because I didn't know how to do that. I just knew what I knew, and I didn't know how to do anything else. And I had to figure that out without giving up my safety zone. So this is a powerful, powerful tool for how we can grow into our goals that we want to achieve. So may I gift that one to you?
Yes, thank you.
You're very welcome. Okay, big round of applause for these guys. Thanks, you guys. All right, have you guys learned something today? At least 2 things? Okay, good. Because when it comes to the communication, we are here for 100 years of our life to learn how to improve it. And until we improve our communication, we will repeat our results. So let me just say that one more time. Until we improve our communication, we will repeat our results. And we sometimes feel like, oh, I've already been here. Why do I have to repeat this again? Because we didn't learn how to improve our communication yet. So that's why when I went to the Master Your Influence class, I thought, oh, how am I gonna change my body language? What am I gonna do? And so you guys, I've taught you many things here today, but especially this feet, legs, hands, shoulders, chin. We should make a song about that. Feet, legs, hands, shoulders, chin, shoulders, chin. But these are the pieces that if you pay attention to those, they do 2 things for you. One is they improve your confidence levels. Because if you hold a confident body language pose for 2 minutes, it changes the confidence hormones in your brain. It changes them. And the other is, if you know how to diffuse your own stress levels, it can bring your confidence levels up because you know how to manage your stress. So they play hand in hand, and then you can increase your mood. You can feel better. In fact, have you ever heard of the afternoon slump? Heard of that? Well, the afternoon slump is caused by gravity. Gravity pulls down on us during the day, and in the afternoon we get to where our shoulders are slumped over. Or if we've been stressed, our shoulders are slumped while being pulled towards our ears. And then we go home and we're like, oh, honey, can you get this knot out of my shoulder blade right here? Because of that stress that's been there all day long. And so I would highly recommend that several times a day you roll your shoulders back and pull your chin back just above level. Here, do it with me. Ready? Because when we do that, gravity will still be there and try to pull back down, but we got to continually be showing our brain what we want. This is a choice that has to be repeated to be able to upgrade that program. If I don't continue, so for example, when my kids came home, 4 days in a row, I had to change the program. I had to show my brain I wanted the new program. Because otherwise, it's easier for my brain to default back to its old behavior. It's easier. And let's just face it, our brain wants things to be easier. It just does. And so you can practice these things. You can practice standing with your weight on both legs. At my TED Talk at minute 12, I talk about how I taught my son in junior high. He'd gone to 4 different junior highs in the same year. And I taught him what to do in his legs so that he would come across more confident, so he wouldn't have bullies at the new school. Because he's like, Mom, why do kids keep picking on me? And I said, do you always stand like that at school? And he goes, yeah, of course I do. And I said, all right, try this. So go watch. I tell that story at minute 12 of that TED Talk. But you have these things that you can try now. We've given you an arsenal. You now have arrows in your quiver. Okay, you've got things that you can use. You go try them. Well, when I left Master Your Influence, I didn't know what to try. I didn't know what to do. And so I remember I was driving home, and I'm thinking about this concept. I pull into the garage, and I walk in the house, and all my kids happen to be sitting in the family room. And I'm like, oh no, here's my chance, and I don't know what to do. So I walk up to the door, and I go, hi everyone, I'm home. And the kids are like, huh? And I'm like, no, I'm going to own this. And all of a sudden, my 13-year-old ran across the room and hugged me. He was so hungry for me to be open to him that he would take this corny version of Mom standing in the doorway over the one who had been pushing them away. So I tell you this so that you can know it doesn't have to be huge changes in your body language to start to know changes in behavior. It just matters that we do something. And yet, we haven't been taught what to do, so we didn't try anything. We just kept stumbling through on the same path over and over, getting the same results, but wishing we had different ones. This is why I mentor people, because there is nothing more frustrating than doing the same thing over and over and expecting a new result. Einstein called it the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a new result. In order to get that new result, we've got to do something different. So I hope that you will take this and do something different. Will you? Yes. All right, awesome. So so the thing is, let's see what I'm doing. So I have some giveaways. Anybody like giveaways? All right, because I noticed that they brought me up this bowl here, and this bowl has people's names in it, and that's pretty cool. So I have here some CDs, and these CDs are all mentoring principles, and they're very powerful mentoring principles. In fact, these ones right here. So here's the Building a Mind of Steel. Building a Mind of Steel, this comes from, in science, there's been some studies that have figured out that we have about 50 thoughts every minute. That's a lot of thoughts every minute. So it's not pieces of information like we talked about here. Actual thoughts. Our brain goes through that many thoughts in a minute. And what they found is, that about 74% of those thoughts are negative. It means we don't need other people to beat us up. We're too busy beating ourselves up inside of our brain. And it happens every single minute. So if you could adjust that, So I was listening recently to a retired pro baseball player, and he was talking about this same concept. He said in pro baseball, he said their batting average, if it can be improved by a fraction of a percent, it matters. So he said in batting average, if 74% of your up-to-bats are misses or outs, that is a point, and you guys baseball players help me, is it 0.026 or 0.26? 0.26% batting average. And he says if you can just change that to 0.27, that is a huge improvement. Well, imagine your negative thoughts. If we can change them from a 0.26 positive average, if we can change that to a 0.27 or a 0.3, we will change our results. Because people around us are still being pummeled with their 74% negative thoughts. So this audio CD right here, this is about how to reduce the number of negative comments and increase the number of positive comments that are going through your head every single minute. Powerful information. This one right here, the vision board, so that's what that one looks like. This one right here, the vision board, this is how to get the left and the right side of your brain working together towards your goals. This one right here, perfection is a direction. If you don't think you're a perfectionist, then you just don't know what flavor of perfectionism you're suffering from. And so listen to this to learn the different kinds of perfectionism that try to stop us and how to get past them and achieve your goals faster. And then, of course, this one, don't dump your cup. Learn about procrastination, how to work-home balance, and also to receive the good that's coming to you. So I have 2 copies of each of these, and I would like to gift them to people. Would that be okay if I do that? But the question I have is, some of you, like Becky Jo said, do you already have all of these, Becky Jo? Which one do you not have?
Well, I have access to some that I have online.
Yeah, so that you have all the downloads?
Yeah.
Okay, cool, because that's how we give them now, is they all are in downloads. So these are actually going to be antiques soon, that you may want them signed, because they'll be really cool things in the future when people are like, CDs? What are those? Is that like an 8-track? Yeah, something like that. And so even I noticed that my car doesn't even have a CD player. It only has an MP3 port, no CD player. So these right now, if you were to purchase them at the front desk, you would purchase them as an audio download. So these right here, I would like to gift these away. Would that be okay if I do that? Yes? Yes? All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them like this. I am going to let you choose. In fact, remind me your name again. Lee Troy, will you come hold these for me, Lee Troy? So you get to hold them, you get to be like the best bookshelf, okay? Ooh, that is very nice. So when I pull your name out of here, you get to come and choose the CD you want. Is that okay? But the rule is you have to choose within 3 seconds. You can't sit up there and read the back of each one. Just go for the one that calls to you the most, okay? So the first person is Jacob Gaunt. There you go. Yay! Okay, which one do you want? Okay, the next one is Lee Troy. So you get to choose. Okay, put that one under your arm. Okay, the next one is Drew Kimball. Okay, there you go. Oh, I did Lee Troy. The next one is Jacqueline Plested. Yay! And then the next one is Jennifer Francis. You already have one? Okay. So then, that's true. Aline Hampton. And then, how many do I still have? I need 3 more. Okay. So the next one is Stephanie Christensen. And then the next one is Adam Barlow. Oh, that's true, you were. I just didn't know your last name. All right, Adam was up there. And then Lydia Barlow. You do? We might get everybody in here to get one today. That's awesome. Kate Gurney. Awesome. And then Hallie Garfield. Hallie Garfield. Congratulations. Okay, wait a minute. We only have one left in here. Eric. Where's Eric? Do you have all of them? I do. Okay, so we're good. Everybody has CDs. Is that cool? That has never happened before. Big round of applause for that. So really quick before we finish here, I just want to tell you a little bit about the Master Your Influence class. Because raise your hand again if you've been to that class. So those ones of you, awesome. Is it worth going to?
Yes.
So it's a 3-day class. Would you pass out that handout really quick? They're going to give you one of these green handouts. And the first thing I want you to read on here is right here where it says, change your results. Have you learned something in 2.5 hours here this morning? Yes? Doesn't it go fast when we start learning? 2.5 hours. But this is a 3-day class. So if you learn something in 2.5 hours, imagine what you would get out of 24 hours of class. Now, I currently have 3 kids who are now in college. And I know that if you tried to get 24 hours of training at a college, it would be way more than $227. I happen to know this because all my kids paid tuition last semester. And I was like, oh, that is not the same tuition we charge for our classes. This next class will be May 10th through the 12th, or August 2nd through the 4th. It is taught down here at the Salt Palace. When you come to this class, you guys that are online, they're going to also show you this information on your screen. When you come to this class, there's about 1,000 people that come to the class. When you come in, you come a little early the first day. We give you your name tag, and we also send you an interact. Was that me? That was exciting. We also send you an interactive workbook. It's not just a paper workbook, it's an interactive one. So you can pull it up on your phone or your electronic device, and it's an interactive one in that you can click on different parts. There's actually even Easter eggs in it. It's really fun. And there's lots of pictures in it. There's lots of words because we want both of the sides of your brain to get to be happy, the left and the right side of your brain. And when you come, you walk into the class the first day, you'll notice that there's big screens on both sides of the stage because we want everybody to have the best seat in the house. We want everybody to be able to see everything. And your name tag is so that if you choose to be a volunteer and you get up on stage and you can't remember your name, you can cheat and look at your name tag because sometimes those details leave our brain. So when you come to this class, at this class, we're going to talk about vision boards. We're going to talk about body language. We're going to talk about changing results. We're going to talk about mentoring principles. Because remember, we can upgrade the program and get new body language. We can also upgrade the body language and get new programs. So we're going to work on both, not just one or the other. We're going to work on both. So because you came to this class today, our tuition, our normal tuition, is $227. Just so you know, when my husband signed me up for this class, it was more than that. And it's not that we've changed the value of the class. In fact, it's the opposite. We just have realized we want more people to have access to this information because it will then ripple out and affect more people. So that's what we want. Our mission is to empower people with the skills to improve their relationships, increase their personal power, and inspire self-mastery. That's what our purpose is. And so we try to open these classes up to as many people as possible. We do have to just cover the costs of the venue and the materials, but we want you there. We so want you there. And so because you came today, I want you to know this. We will teach the class as if it is an $1,800 tuition. We are going to teach it that way. Because my kids, their tuition for one semester, for a 24 hours worth of classes, is more than that. It's more than that. But we're going to teach it as if that's what you're getting, because that is what we're giving you, is that kind of information. I went through college, you guys. I would have loved to have had this information. Our tuition is $227. But because you came here today, because you played, because you had great questions, and because you joined us online, I have 2 offers for you, really quick. And those offers are this. You saw those CDs, the Building a Mind of Steel, the Vision Board, the Perfection is a Direction, and the Don't Dump Your Cup CD. Those together, up until just a few months ago, those together, we sold the actual CDs for $74. So it's a $74 value. I'm not going to give you the CDs, but I'm going to email you the audio downloads of them. The audio downloads so you can listen to them. Because that's the important part. The plastic on the outside's cool because you can write on it, but the information contained inside, that's the powerful piece. Because I want you to listen to that before you come to the class. So those 4 CDs, $74 value, I'm going to gift those to you if you register for the class while you're here today. You register while you're here for the class. And the second offer is, I'm going to give you a different tuition, and it won't be higher. It will be lower for the whole 3 days. But I take a risk when I do that, because sometimes people will devalue the material because I give you a bonus. So I want you to choose into the class at this level, as if you are choosing to come for $1,800 worth of value from the class. Choose in. Choose in, choose that you're worth it. Choose to get past your comfort zone and your chicken exits. And this new tuition that I'm going to give you, you still get the $74 value of audio downloads. And here's the other cool part. This is for you, but if you have somebody else you want to sign up for this class and they're not here, because my husband signed me up without me being there, I understand that. You can apply this new tuition to them as well. So if you want to sign them up, they don't have to call the office and have $227. They can have the new tuition that I'm going to give you. So you guys that are online, this applies to you as well. It applies to you. So the first 10 people that register will get all 4 of those audio downloads. The first 10. Everybody will get the Building a Mind of Steel download. Everyone will get that one. The first 10 will get all 4 of those audio downloads. Okay. So what you have to choose is, which date are you going to come? And then when you come to the class, come say hi to me, because I want to see you there. I want to see you. It matters to me because I don't see you just as you. I see you as all of the people that you will influence with the information that you receive. Cool? Very cool. Is that okay if I give you that many bonuses on a Thursday? Today's Thursday, right? Yep. All right, cool. All right, so any questions about the class before I write your new tuition up there?
I have a couple questions.
Okay, and then we'll go here.
I could tell you read a lot. What are your top books that you like to read?
Okay, so hang on just a second, I'll answer that. Let me finish with questions about this offer, and then I'll answer that question. Would that be all right? Okay, what's your question?
So, if we've already registered for the classes, do the audiobook things still count?
So this is for the people who register right here. So if anybody that registers today, they get that offer. So if you're already registered, sign up a friend, and then you'll get the audio downloads. Cool? Excellent. Right here.
So just to be clear, if I bring my wife, it's $454 for 2 people plus the audio books is the bonus. Is that what you're getting at?
Yes.
Okay.
Except for it will be different because I'm going to give you a new tuition.
Okay. Is that something you're going to go over, or do I need to ask a question about it?
Should anybody, if you ask a question, here's the thing to know about questions. If you ask good questions, you get good answers. So do you want to ask that question?
Yeah, what's the lowest you can send my wife up?
Okay, so because Drew asked,
Mind you, diapers and milk go fast.
I still get that. Okay, so this is what I'll do. So it'll be, for you and your wife, it would be 2 times this. Okay, you ready? I'm trying to do the math in my head. Okay, you ready? It is 79. Somebody do the math. 158. So you and your wife can both go for less than the original. Is that cool? So you can still buy diapers and milk. All right. So go be one of the first people to sign up so you can get the audio downloads. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you go, and then those individual questions you have, I'll stay here and answer them. Cool? All right. Give yourselves a big round of applause for being here today. You are all awesome. And all of you online, take advantage of the offer as well. If you have friends, make sure they get that link and get signed up today. You guys are amazing. Have a great day. Okay, so your question. So your first one was?
I can tell you. And I get,
I count that as reading.
okay, what are the books, your favorite books that have really impacted your thinking?
About body language or in general? Can you turn my sound off?
About where
There
you
we go.
were